Thank you all for joining us today for this panel discussion. My name is Carrie Dillon. I am the Managing Director for the International Textile Alliance, and we are the organization that produces Interwoven Textile Fair by ITA. We are very excited to have this group here today with us to discuss better blending. Our moderator, Scarlett Tapp, who recently joined the SFC as their Executive Director, or the Sustainable Furnishings Council. Scarlett has a political science degree, worked for a while in television development in Hollywood, and for the last 14 years, she's been working in the nonprofit sector. She lives in Greenville, South Carolina, and is soon to be an empty nester. So we thank her for being here today. I'm going to turn it over to Scarlett.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, ITA, and thank you, Tencel Fibers, for having us here today to have a really great discussion about 4 sustainable fibers that we're going to learn about. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about the Sustainable Furnishings Council. We've been around over 16 years, and we really have been the leading the home furnishings industry to this concept of sustainability, which now we are learning about it all too well. We're going in leaps and bounds, especially in the last couple of years. But our stakeholders of our nonprofit organization are furniture manufacturers, retailers, the suppliers, as well as interior designers. So we help them learn to become more sustainable through transparency and also education. And so that's why I'm excited to be here today, because we're educating and I'm learning, and we're all going to learn together about how to blend these sustainable fibers. So I want to welcome our panel today. We have Walter Bridgham, Senior. He is the Business Development Manager at Tencel Fiber, and they are also our sponsor. And in just a moment, I'm going to pass this down, and he'll tell you a little bit more about himself. We also have Chad Bolick. He's the Vice President of Brand Sales at Global Key Accounts at Unify. Think about Reprieve. That is their fiber. We have Malvina Hoeksa. She's the Director of North America Chargers Group. Nativa is her product. And then we have Jennifer Lukowiak. She's the Director of Supply Chain Marketing at Cotton Incorporated. So with that, let's get started and learn about these fundamentals of each of your fabrics, or your fibers, excuse me, how they work individually, and then we'll talk later about how they can blend for versatility and become stronger. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Walter. So tell us a little bit about you, tell us about Tencel Fiber, and tell us how it's sustainable.
Great. Thank you, Scarlett. Walter Bridgham. I come from a long background of retail, working for Macy's for 33 years. A lot of things from stores, buyer for many years, product development in soft textiles and hard goods, working for a mill called West Point Home, where directing towels, fill products, etc., for the US market. And then I had the opportunity to work with the fiber there and got to learn a lot of the attributes and characteristics. And then now I've been with Tencel for 4 years and really just educating, inspiring the industry to learn about the sustainability, the comfort attributes, and what it can bring to every home product that is a fabric oriented and even not fabric oriented. So with that, I'll jump right into Tencel. Tencel is in the family of rayons. In the family of rayons, you've got viscose, which is the oldest technology. Then you have modal, which was invented 30 years later from viscose. And both of those are chemistry captured and treated is the main difference, separating from lyocell. So lyocell was created in 1992, and we are part of the inventors of that. And it is a captured closed loop production process where I'll get to the wood in a second, but really the difference between the two is it's captured and reused greater than 99%. So those are your two main differences that everybody seems to get confused on. But what is man-made cellulosics? Man-made cellulosics really come from trees. So you can see here the chipped wood. This is where this is our raw material, and we sustainably source this through FSC and PFC certifications. We put it into, chip it, put it into a digester, and really use 100% of this wood. 10% goes to sugars and vinegars for the food industry. 50% is biofuel to run the plant, and 40% is that white fluffy stuff in the middle there that is the cellulose dissolving pulp. We then blend that with eco-friendly solvents to create this beautiful honey consistency and extrude it through spinnerets, similar to how polyester is extruded. It goes into an eco-friendly bath where it cures, and then we cut it and create staple fiber. The great unique things about it is super absorbent, super soft, takes color really well, unfavorable environment for bacteria growth because of its moisture management, and biodegradable and compostable at the end of life. So from nature, returns to nature. And that's certified through home composting. So if you buy a 100% Tencel sheet, cut it up, you can home compost it. You can industrial compost it. You can any biodegradable water, soil, seawater, everything it's great for. So that's really what the fiber is in sustainability aspect and can be used in anything.
Fantastic. All right, Chad, you're on deck to talk about your product, Reprieve.
All right, thank you. And my name is Chad Volek. I am with Unify. My background, I grew up in the textile industry. I went to North Carolina State. My father, both grandfathers were in the hosiery end of the industry. My mother was in the home end. She worked for Hickory Chair until she retired in 2008. So I have a background. I love textiles. It's one of those things that I couldn't see myself doing anything any different. But that's enough about me. So we'll talk a little bit about Unify and Reprieve. So Unify, we are one of the world's largest synthetic yarn manufacturers. And in the early 2000s, because we are a manufacturer, we started looking at ways to work with our waste. We wanted to figure out what do we do with the waste that we produce as being a manufacturer. And we came up with the polyester version of Reprieve. And it has evolved many ways since the early 2000s, from primarily being a pre-consumer or post-industrial waste fiber to now being 100% post-consumer fiber. So what we do, we take the bottles that you will actually drink out of, those PET bottles, the water bottles, the soda bottles. We take those bottles, we actually bring them to our facility in North Carolina. We will sort those bottles by color. And what we're doing is we're working primarily with the clear and the blue bottles. We grind those bottles up. We remove the bottle caps. We remove the labels. And it becomes this, which is what kind of looks like shattered glass, but it's actually the ground up plastic. From there, it goes through multiple filtrations to create resin. This resin actually is what is in this little container here. It kind of looks like Nerds. Trust me, I wouldn't eat it. It doesn't taste like Nerds. There's no real flavor to it. And then from there, we extrude it through a spinneret, very similar to what Walter does. And we can go into multiple areas. We could actually go into a filament yarn, and we can also go into a staple fiber. And for the purpose of this board or this panel, the staple fiber is where we can talk more about the blending and what we can do. The good thing with polyester and recycled polyester and Reprieve is it can be recycled again. And it can be recycled again. And we'll get into that a little bit as the panel goes on as well. We also have other fibers. Reprieve is an umbrella brand for us. We actually have Reprieve nylon. So we do have a nylon version that is also recycled. And then we can break all of our technologies are built on a sustainable platform as well. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little more as the panel goes on. But
Great, thank you. Malvina, we're going to turn to you to talk about Nativa and wool. So first, if you'll tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. You can hear me okay. Perfect. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. So thank you. So a little bit about myself. So I actually started my career actually on the brand and the retail side. So I spent a number of years at Ralph Lauren, and then a couple other years at Tencel. So thank you, Walter. And now I'm with the Chargeurs Group. So looking at our Nativa sustainable and branded fiber. So we work very much in a B2B and B2C channel. So a little bit about the history of the organization is that the way that the branded fiber component came sort of in a very natural pathway. Chargeurs as a group, we are a global fiber sourcing, so looking at all natural wools from all regions. So a little bit of what you can see here is Uruguay, Argentina, New Zealand, Australia, and also here in the US. In the US, we're actually the last freestanding wool top processing and combing mill here. So we have a bit of a competitive edge on that front. But in terms of looking at how the traceability and the sustainability component of the material came about, it was really through the last couple of years. So that looks at the animal welfare component. So a lot of the animal welfare fibers were having a mulesing issue. So from the organizational standpoint, the organization really decided that we were already sourcing from farms which were adhering to responsible standards. And so we decided to really take that leap forth and go out there and create a brand and actually educate both the B2B and the B2C supply chain partners. So the way that we do that is through panels like this and helping the brands and the retailers understand what sets our fiber apart. In terms of wool, why wool? It's a 100% natural fiber. It's a renewable fiber. And it's also 100% biodegradable. And I know we'll talk a little bit about the sustainability front and why that's different from the commodity way of sourcing. So, yeah.
Thank you, Malvina. Jennifer, we're going to end this part of the discussion with you and cotton, which I know we're all pretty familiar with, but maybe you can tell us some things we don't know, and especially sustainability. But first, tell us about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Scarlett. I'm Jennifer Lakowiak. I'm with Cotton Incorporated, their Director of Supply Chain Marketing. And we work with brands and retailers across the US and Canada in apparel and home goods to make sure that, they know all that they need to know about their cotton business. We support their cotton business. We educate them. Our company is a not-for-profit. Many people are not aware of that. We are a not-for-profit, and we are rooted in science and data. So that is really where our approach comes from. The cotton plant is actually a tree. Many people don't know that. It is a tree, and it is farmed. And the interesting thing about cotton is that cotton is grown, it is harvested, it is ginned, and it is spun. And once it is spun into yarns, it can be utilized. So you don't have to add any chemistry to it. You can if you choose to, obviously in the form of dyes and performance finishes. And every single part of the cotton plant is utilized. The stem and the leaves, what we call the trash, that can be used as fertilizer. The seeds are an optimal bovine feed, and they're also pressed into oils for cooking. And of course, the fiber we're all familiar with. We wear the fiber, we use the fiber goes into non-woven products, but it is fully circular. It is fully compostable, biodegradable. It is naturally odor resistant, and it is hypoallergenic. And we actually have studies that prove that you don't get any irritative response when using cotton. We like to say dirt to shirt at our company a lot, dirt to shirt from a biodegradability standpoint, but it's actually soil to sofa in this room. So we can think about it that way. It is a really, really unique natural fiber. It is the fabric of our lives. And coming from the fabric of our lives, my background has always been in apparel. I've worked for United Retail Group, Macy's, Liz Claiborne. So I always kind of worked with a lot of different fibers, including cotton, always coming at it from more of an apparel sense. But again, in looking at the cotton fiber, you can really use it in a variety of manner. You can use it in apparel, home textile, non-wovens, your cotton balls, your Q-tips, all of that good stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a round talking about transparency. At the Sustainable Furnishings Council, transparency is a tool that we provide our members, or really mostly our members, but we hope to have more tools available to everyone in the industry. But it's a way for you as a company to show what you're doing in terms of sustainability, being very public about it. We have profile pages and ways that you can highlight your certifications or any other practices that are transparent and sustainable. So I'd like for each of you to talk about how you are transparent in your sustainability practices, especially as it relates to your fiber.
Great. So I didn't mention, but Tencel is made by Lenzing Fibers, which is a global company based in Austria. Europeans have a lot more stringent standards, and they're continuing to evolve those standards on sustainability every day. So we are a highly sustainable company to begin with. Our sustainability report is award-winning. Our sustainability efforts and production are award-winning. But specific to the fibers, as far as being traceable and transparent, we put a tracer in our fiber, basically. So we know when somebody's using it, and if they want to verify something at the retail level that has it, we can definitely identify it for them. But we put in processes where from the mill level, we sell the fiber to spinners, spinners sell the yarns to weavers, knitters. And at that point, we have, if somebody wants to brand with us, making sure it's Tencel, we have the mill supply fabric to us to test. So we test and verify it is what it is. And then when the brand wants to use the Tencel name, they have to go through a process of saying, we're going to be using this fabric certification that you issued to the mill. And we're going to be branding it with Tencel, and this is what it is and what brand it's going out in the world under. So it's kind of a chain. So where that trust and transparency goes to the end consumer. So what we found through our brand studies is that when the consumer sees Tencel tags, whether it be apparel, upholstery, bedding, etc., they recognize that as trustworthy, sustainable, and they trust brands that use it. And I think that's the key thing for this room is when you can more easily transfer that message of transparency, traceability, sustainability easier to consumers. Those are the things you want to look for to help you do that. So we're a tracer base in our fiber, and it's always there. So that's ours.
Great. Okay, Chad, you're on for your transparency.
problem.
Yeah.
And thank you again. And again, with Reprieve, and we like to say with Reprieve that we're the most transparent and traceable fiber. We were one of the first to actually have a tracer very similar to what Ultra has. So every pound of Reprieve, regardless of where it's produced in the world, we actually have a physical tracer in there that we can test for. And that's really in any form, whether that's in the yarn form, the fiber form, fabric form, even the garment, or in this case would be, the upholstery form. We could test the product for the content of Reprieve. We have different tracers depending on what type of Reprieve. So if we have base Reprieve, or if we have Reprieve our Ocean, which is an ocean-based product, we have a different tracer that we can differentiate between. We also have the certification process. So if someone wants to use the Reprieve name or a Reprieve hang tag, they have to send us the fabric to be certified. We have to issue the certification. Those certifications are good for 12 months, and they are able to use that, the name on that fabric. Now, we've taken it one step further recently, and we do what's called a product level certification. So instead of just a fabric level certification, now if we're working with, let's say, a furniture manufacturer who has multiple fabrics on a piece, you have a sofa that has multiple fabrics and the pillows, and maybe all of those are Reprieve, and you want a certification that is for that specific item, we're able to actually tie all the fabric level certifications together and give the end customer a product level certification that again gives that traceability back through the multiple fabrics. It could be multiple mills that have made those fabrics. So again, it gives that end customer a deeper dive into exactly what that is on that sofa. We're also GRS certified. That's a global recycle standard. We also have another third-party certification through SCS, which is Scientific Certification Systems. That's another one that we have for recycled content. And then Reprieve just, and this comes up all the time with health and safety, we're also Okotex 100 Class 1 certified. So, again, we're a publicly traded company as well, which makes it very, we have to be extremely open with everything that we do. And we try to basically dot every I and cross every T with any certifications that could come up, again, because we want to be the most transparent and traceable fiber out there.
Great, thank you. All right, Malvina, tell us about wool and transparency and any certifications.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so just sort of going back to that history, right? So the Nativa brand was really born out of the fact that there was a new certification which came on board, and that was set forth by the textile exchange community. So I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. And so for on animal fibers, essentially that adheres to the RWS standard. So that's the responsible wool standard, which really for anyone that's new to it, so it really looks at 4 key pillars of animal welfare, so non-mulesing being a key component of anywhere that we source. All of our farms have to adhere to that. Land management, social compliance in terms of the human component and how we're treating folks, and responsible pay and living conditions and all of that. And also there's a certification process. So certification meaning it happens on an annual basis. It's third-party audited and verified. The key component of what Nativa and the branded aspect brings to the brand, and also all of the B2B market, is really looking at all of our fiber and is certified to the RWS standard, but also all of the supply chain partners have to also be certified to the standard. Simultaneously, what we do is we have our own internal blockchain technology, so that allows all of the value chain partners to see in real time where that fiber is moving and how those assets are being utilized. So if one season you're utilizing more wool than you did the previous season, you have exact verifications of where your fiber is sitting in the value chain. Furthermore to that, we also work with a number of farmers that are practicing regenerative wool grazing. So that looks at a farm group that's based here in the US that's leading the pathway towards holistic management. We also have a farm group that's based out of Uruguay that's also leading those practices in the region as well. And those are, again, verified by third-party organizations through TCs, but also we work in partnership through Qantas, which they're quite known in the industry around the LCA and data impact. So they're doing all of the verification, soil impact, biodiversity. So essentially for every pound or kilo of wool that you'll be buying from any one of those farms, you will at one point in time be able to verify how much carbon sequestration has been impacted, the biodiversity impact, the water. So there's essentially going to be a receipt for everything that you're producing. So which is quite exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. For you guys here on the end, you're more agricultural based. So there's
Right.
more levels. And as you were talking about, ultimately, the certifications are really for the consumer. At the end of the day, even though we're, B2B as a nonprofit, we want what the good works that our member companies and the industry are doing to trickle down to the consumer, because they're going to demand and want to see those certifications. And I love, Chad, how you can link it together in one product so it isn't confusing. But now let's move to cotton and also talk more about the agricultural end as well.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting because cotton as a plant, we're not a branded fiber. So it's kind of interesting. We're not adding trackers and things because we're not being pushed through a spinneret. So it's a little bit different the way we kind of approach traceability. When cotton is picked at the farm level, it goes to the ginner and it is baled. Once it is ginned and cleaned, it is baled. When a cotton bale is complete, it gets tagged with a PBI number, which is a permanent bale identifier. That PBI tag will follow that particular bale of cotton until it is broken up to be spun. So it's very interesting that is you're fully traceable back to the gin with that PBI. Now, once cotton is spun, the beauty of using cotton is the fact that you're going to group like fibers with like fibers. So if you're producing cotton canvas, you're going to need a very different cotton profile than if you're producing t-shirts or jeans or sheets or dress shirts. So like fibers go with like fibers. And at that point, bales are kind of broken up and spun in different ways. So while we don't necessarily put trackers because of the way cotton is grown, there are certain things that you can look for. There's the Cotton Leads program. Cotton Leads program is US and Australian cotton setting a best practice for global cotton growth. We work with farmers in the US and Australia. They've got very similar practices when it comes to farming, when it comes to regenerative agriculture, soil respect, land management, water management, pesticides, all of that. And then there's some other programs as well. I'm sure you've heard of BCI and the Cotton Trust Protocol. And those are other hallmark programs that you can look into that kind of get applied to cotton. But cotton in and of itself is grown sustainably. It is managed in a very respectful way when it comes to water, pesticides. It is fully recyclable. You can recycle cotton back into uses like insulation, but you can also recycle it back into other products. So that's also something that is interesting. Again, using every part of the cotton plant. There's a lot that you can do with cotton.
Let's stay on cotton one more. Can you talk a little bit about GOTS and different certifications?
So yeah, there's a lot of different organizations out there. They're independent when it comes to what they're monitoring. We will usually, defer to what they're saying very often when it comes to managing cotton growth. And it was interesting, GOTS recently decertified, it was about 2 years ago, a lot of the organic cotton that was being grown in India because they were not actually adhering to organic growth practices. Does that mean the cotton was bad? No, it just means it wasn't organic. So if you're paying more for organic, you were not necessarily getting organic. And to that point, to just clarify, organic cotton is not a different type of cotton. It is a different growing method. So they still use pesticides. They're just different pesticides. They still use fertilizers. They're just different fertilizers that are certified to be used in an organic product. But when GOTS came in and decertified a lot of those cotton fields in India for not being organic, that skyrocketed the cost of organic cotton. Organic cotton accounts for about 1% of global cotton production, so it's not a lot. When that 1% then gets cut by 75%, that really increased the prices of organic cotton. And we always like to say we're cotton agnostic. All cotton is good cotton. We like it all. And we support it all. But one of the things that we do work with our brands and retailers is we tell them, don't paint yourself into a corner. It's great to use organic cotton, but be mindful that it does represent a very small amount of global cotton. So ideally, you should be using that in a program or in a certain segment of your business, but not to hinge your entire business on organic cotton.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you. Now we're going to talk about how your fibers can be used in home furnishings. And then after that, we'll talk about blending. But if you have to touch on that in this subject, that's fine. But Walter, I'm going to let you start us off.
All right. So how can you use our fibers? Well, I'm going to start with what I'm wearing and then move to home. So pretty much anything from my socks up has Tencel in it. So I have some Levi's gabardine pants. So it's a bottom weight, which is also good for upholstery. I've got undergarments Modal super soft knit, great on the skin. Rayon type shirts, a great drape. Levi's denim jacket with Tencel. So you can see we're kind of in everything. But when you get to the home products, I think the benefit, because I market to the home products, the specifics is the comfort that it brings. Yes, sustainability, crucial, where everything's going, and we've got that nailed down. But what people really don't understand is the comfort attributes that it brings, because the fiber's uniqueness of being able to absorb heat and humidity better than any other fiber, and it transfers it through the fiber. That is that unfavorable environment for bacteria growth, cool touch to the skin. You can put it in carpets at 100% and you can blend it. You can put it in upholstery. You can put it in fill products with some of my partners here, from furniture maker materials to window treatments to bedding. So it can really go into everything, and it just adds that extra comfort level as well as a sustainability aspect.
Fabulous. All right, Chad, tell us.
From a polyester reprieve standpoint, we can do a lot of the same things that Walter's talking about. And, again, some of what I'm wearing, not all of what I'm wearing is reprieve. You are wearing your Rothy's, which those are reprieve. So glad you supported us today.
I didn't mean to, but I am. I mean, I love my Rothy's.
There you go.
You
Not a
can
problem.
wash them in the
Glad you
washing
got 'em.
machine. They're awesome.
But when you specifically look at the home market, really when we got into the home market, the first area we went into was the upholstery. So just think of your basic, and a lot of it was filament polyester going into your upholstery market. But it's broadened quite a bit. And a big market that we're in today is actually the bedding, the top of the bed, mattress ticking type markets. That the good thing with reprieve, with polyester, is that we can modify that fiber and give different attributes to the fiber that then gives you different attributes to the fabric. So we can modify the fiber to have a cooler touch. We can modify the fiber to have, a warmer hand, things along those lines, which it allows us to go into some of these markets like top of the bed, mattress ticking, things like that, where you want the cooler touch. Fiber fill is another big area. Again, whether it's 100% reprieve or whether it's blended with some of our friends up here, that's another huge area that we can go into. Carpeting, and then you go into the drapes, the window treatments, and then we actually do crossover into that indoor outdoor space in a lot of areas. So if you are doing the in-out type, you see a lot of reprieve in kind of the area where it could be furniture that goes outside on patios, furniture around pools, things like that. So there's not an area within the home market today that I don't think we're touching. So.
That's great. Alvina?
Yeah. Hopefully you're not making it too warm.
No.
Okay, good.
More cool.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah, so I think you probably, there's somebody in this room it's in shoes, it's in your Allbirds, it's in carpets, it's in my blazer. So it's really the way that we look at it from the wool and sourcing and supply chain side. So wool is sourced in microns, right? So we're sourcing anyway from 14 micron, which is super luxurious. It's going into really premium suiting fabrications, to all the way to 20s, 30s microns, which is really what we utilize in the carpet and the home segment. But upholstery, of course, is a key product category. We haven't really made the jump in terms of being able to source that through our Nativa branded fiber, but that's really a lot of our commodity wool still going into those product application. Carpets is another high-end use. I know we're going to talk about end of life a little bit later on, but in the carpet segment, that's really where we look at more of the coarser fibers, so the 20s, 20 plus, even in the 30s micron. That's really where a lot of those carpet uses are coming into effect. In fiber fill, for example, that's becoming a larger component of the end use within home. Throws, blankets, of course, that's a huge push for what we're doing here in the US market. And there's great suppliers that can really be able to source that from farm all the way to finished goods that is fully US made. What else? Just the end use, yeah?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
you've covered a lot of products, and mainly I think when we talk blending, maybe
Yeah.
home furnishings, we might be able to talk more about that. Jennifer?
Yeah. So cotton, most people think of your sheets and your towels. That's kind of where everybody defaults to. But cotton can be applied beautifully in upholstery, slip covers, drapery. The nice thing about cotton, you think about the way homes are being built now, very open concept, right? A lot of us have a kitchen that feeds directly into a family room, a TV room, some sort of a gathering space. So when you're talking about adding cotton to your home textiles, cotton does not absorb odors. So if it's in your kitchen, if it's near your kitchen, it's not absorbing odors. It is not, it washes clean as well. So it's very easy to clean cotton. Cotton can be applied in a variety of manners. I've seen cotton in rugs. Again, we'll get into the blending a little bit later, but there is a lot of blending that goes on in the home space as well. But cotton really can be applied throughout your home, not just in your bedding and your towels and all that good stuff.
I'm going to let you hang on. So we're going to go backwards, change it
Okay.
up a little
All
bit.
right.
And let's go straight to blending and see how you lovely people can make your fibers maybe work together. So
Yeah, I mean, well, again, cotton plays well with others. I mean, that's what I always like to say. We play really well with others. We like to be in the same sandbox and kind of everybody gets along. You can really blend cotton as a blank canvas with any other fiber and it will blend well. There's cotton is going to dye differently than a lot of these other fibers. And that would probably be your biggest concern, is working within your supply chain to make sure that, you're getting the colors that you want. I actually come from that color area of trying to, match colors and make sure that, the rayons are matching, the cottons are matching the polys and, all of that, making sure that it's all sitting on the floor together and harmoniously. But that would really be, something that you would work through with your supply chain, is making sure that you're hitting your colors, everything's getting read into the spectrophotometer if you're using one within your Delta range. But otherwise, no, we play well with everybody.
awesome. Okay. How does wool play?
Well, in the certified realm, I think it's a little bit trickier because I think that's where we really do require our supply chain partners that they only blend our Nativa certified materials with other certified materials. So we do make that a requirement of our B2B and also our brand partners, right? So a lot of it is really educating them on why that is for their benefit and end use. But in terms of blending, we actually quite prefer it. So I'm sure everyone in this room knows it's a beautiful fiber. It has long life and longevity to it, but it's also an expensive fiber. So from the standpoint of utilizing it and getting all of its assets and values out of it, that's really where blending, so anywhere in the 50-50, 60-40, 70-30s, and that's across, I think, from textile apparel and also even in the home segment. That's really, those are some of the key blending ratios that we do prefer our brand partners blend it, because it will help with your costs. So whether it's cotton, Reprieve, we have some beautiful options with Reprieve as well as Tencel, from the standpoint of providing the material a little bit more of a performance attribute. That's where we've seen a lot with Tencel and with wool. So again, you see it from your Allbirds all the way to the home product. So
I didn't know this about Allbirds. That's
Yeah.
next. All right, Chad.
Okay. And again, with polyester, we're also very, very good to blend with a lot of things. And it's kind of funny, I'm sitting in the middle because it's more probably blending in a yarn formation here, where here I'm going to be blending more on the fiber fill standpoint in a lot of ways with your end in some cases, but we kind of cross over multiple ways, but that's a good thing. I mean, polyester Reprieve is good to blend. And we also have, depending on what we're blending with, it may be the different types of Reprieve that we're using. We do a lot with cotton today, where we're blending just Reprieve and cotton in your 60-40, a lot of your 60-40 t-shirts, that type of thing. But you also see it in the home front. With wool, we have multiple options for wool, because it depends on what again, with your dye uptake, it could be different. I could blend Reprieve Cationic with wool, And then the dyeing would be a lot easier because you're using the same dye stuffs, and it's that type of, you're not going to have the issues that you would if it's just normal polyester or Repreve with wool. So those are things that can give you options. With Tencel, we do a lot with lensing in that group, both in the yarn space and in the fiberfill space. And again, what it's doing is each of these fibers have different attributes. And I think when you're trying to, blending gives you the opportunity to mix those attributes. And then blending, and I think you touched on it, also gives you the opportunity to hit different price points. And that allows you to really get sustainability and maybe an attribute at a certain price point, or maybe at a lower or a higher price point, depending on how you're blending. So.
That's great. Walter, tell us about Tencel.
Well, I think the interesting about Tencel and Repreve is that we are able to make different detexes of fibers and different lengths of fibers to be a better blend. We also have different technologies. So when you think about wool as an example, wool has a higher dye temperature. So our normal lyocell wouldn't necessarily function as best, but we also make one that blends well, that takes high temperatures. We make ones, the bulk of ours are the length of cotton. So when you spin that, it's going to be a great intimate blend. It's going to be easy for spinners to spin together. In the polyester, same thing. The two-dye process is very similar to how cotton and poly blends together. You think about the different attributes. So if you take wool and you take cotton and you make a velvet, so you're going to get something chunky, but it'll be a little bit drier. You take Tencel model and blend it with cotton, you're going to get similar to a polyester sheen and hand. So really thinking about the characteristics of each. I have on the table over there, I just want to make sure everybody stops over and touches some of this, because it's a representation of blending from all of us in different ways. From the velvet with wool, where you get that higher loft and more plush feel, to the sheen with cotton, to the polyester that's needed for the performance attributes. And then I think the other thing I want to mention is that all of these, everybody's concerned about performance. These guys have the performance attribute, but all of the fabrics that can be treated with whatever the performance treatments that are allowed these days. So don't rule us all out because we're natural, because we're sometimes more expensive, et cetera. Don't rule us out from the performance treatments that are out there today, because customers really want something at the end of the day that is soft, comfortable, and will last. So I think all of us together blended will do that. You think about carpets with wool, lovely sheen and the dye uptake that both of these fibers have. You're familiar with CVC sheets, which are cotton and polyester. Tencel and polyester will be out there soon as well. All three of us blended together are out there. So blending is important. And then if you think about drapery, Tencel tends to elongate, so you wouldn't want it in the warp. That's where you want a cotton warp or a poly warp, so that you still get that strength, you get that same length, it won't elongate, but you get the sheen and the color uptake that we would offer in the hand in the warp or the weft. So a lot of different things. Think about your end result. I don't know if many of you are actual fabric designers and makers, or yarn spinners, or retail buyers, but think about what you want the end result to be. Think about the different attributes that each of us bring to that fiber crossweave, intimate blend, to really deliver what you're looking for, to have something new, interesting, that your customers will really like. And I think working with all of us, you're going to have a winner.
You're definitely going to have a winner because they're all sustainable fibers. I have to say that, but that's also a good story for the product and for the end result, because I think consumers are looking for that in their products, even more so. I know, like with the shoes and the smaller, price point items in our lives, that's an easier sell. And I'm up here trying to get the whole big home furnishings industry. That's a bigger price point. But let's talk now that we're nearing the end of our time together, but let's talk about end of life. Some of you hinted about what happens. Where does your fiber go? Does it live on? Is it reincarnated? Tell us about it. So Walter, I'll start with you.
Sure. So we have the fiber itself end of day biodegradable and compostable. So if it's 100%, you can put it in your home composter. You can industrial, salt water, fresh water, etc. But I think the thing I want to go into is upcycle. So if you think about shredding fabrics for reuse and respinning, there's technologies these days like Santas, et cetera, that are making machinery that can shred cotton, shred any of these fabrics into a longer staple. Those can then be respun with a virgin longer fiber like Tencel for applications, poly, or even cotton, or even wool. So think about upcycle and the technologies there. There are sheets now being made with upcycled cotton and Tencel blends. Then you think about our technology, Tencel Lyocell Refibra technology. Refibra technology is where we're taking pre and post-consumer waste, cotton, polyester, blends, et cetera. We're taking those and we're breaking them down to the cellulose. So the byproduct of the polyester would be used for plant biofuel, but then we're using the cotton cellulose, blending it with our wood cellulose to generate a virgin lyocell fiber. So that is a whole nother end of life use where we're diverting what would be waste into a raw material and bringing it back into life as a virgin fiber. So that whole circularity is there. So it's not only end of life, but how can you give it a new life? So that's where I'd go with that.
I'm going to stop 1 second though, but I do want to ask just from the technical aspect of once they're blended fibers, how difficult can that be to recycle and extend that life?
Yeah, so in the Refibra process, we're able, at first it was just 100% cotton, and it's done in Europe, and it was cutting room floor waste where they knew it was 100% cotton. We've evolved in that to where now we can take colors, light to mid-tone colors, as well as partnering with Sodra, a Swedish company, who's able to do polycotton blends. So that's where you think about hospitality. So they're focused on white. Our other partner is able to do color. And then the technology is going to evolve to where we can take more and more poly blends into it. So we're excited about that. Our goal is to get to our lyocell fiber being 50% upcycle material along with our wood. So technologies are happening there. We're continuing to invest. So life is changing for all of us. Let's make it change in a good way.
I love it. Chad, can you talk about it as well and any, challenges that come with
Yeah, absolutely.
separating out a blend?
Sure. And, it was pre-COVID, but really after COVID, the term circularity really became a big term, and everyone was wanting to know, what do I do with end of life garments? And now you're seeing states that are passing laws that say no textiles can go to landfill. And, so what we can do at Unify, we have what we call reprieve textile take back. And that is a process that we can take products back that qualify. And we're kind of along the same lines as Walter in the qualifications. For us, we mechanically recycle polyester today. So what we're doing, we actually mechanically take 100% polyester with up to about 10% of a spandex or another fiber that's not cellulosic or animal fiber right now. Those are the two that we can't handle. We can actually take that. We run it through a mechanical recycling process, run it through multiple filters, and we can come back. We blend it with actual flake, and we can go back with 100% recycled product that has a combination of textile waste and bottle flake in it. Now, mechanically recycling, we don't remove color. So most of the time what we're doing is we're going back to a black fiber. We can actually add pigment to it and we can control that black fiber. Otherwise, the color varies run to run, even varies within the run. One thing I want to touch on, and Walter mentioned it, is the changing technology. And every day we're seeing advancements in recycling of textiles. And what the way we recycle today is not going to be the way we recycle in 5 years. And you're going to see a combination of mechanical recycling, and you're going to see a combination of chemical recycling. And chemical recycling is going to be able to do some of that separation, and they're going to be able to take and say, this is a cellulose, this is the polyester or the nylon or whatever it is. As they evolve, I mean, that technology today is more on a lab scale to pilot scale than full production scale, but it is going to evolve. And I think that textile recycling is going to be one of the biggest areas of focus. We see it. That's an area that we have as one of our pillars of what is next, what's beyond the bottle, in terms of how do we take waste and recycle it. Because the textile industry is, depending on where you read it, the second, third largest waste producer in the world. We have to figure out what do we do with that waste, and whether it's cut and sew waste, whether it's waste from spent garments, or whether it's waste from fabrics that are being pulled off of furniture. Something has to be done with it, and the states are now saying it's not going to our landfills. So evolution is going to happen. It's something that their industry groups today that are put together to study that, to really figure out what needs to be in place. And the next, I would say, 3 to 5 years is going to be very interesting when you start talking about textile recycling.
Yeah. Malvina?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so wool in general, it's an animal-based fiber. So essentially the fiber in and of itself is fully biodegradable if it goes into landfill. So if you look at just the overall history of the fiber, it's really a byproduct of the meat segment, right? So in order to grow it, you need clean air, grasslands, animals are eating it. So essentially it has that from nature to nature component to it. In terms of what complicates that life cycle, of course, is the dye stuff, the processing, the treatments that go on top of it in order for us to create the fabrications, right? So of course, that's going to have an impact in its overall biodegradability. In terms of the recycled and the second life component for us as an organization, right now, we don't necessarily have a take back approach. We have been approached by several of our brand and retail partners. We do work with suppliers within the Prato region, majority of it, which is going into the textile and the apparel market. That gets tricky for wool in the sense that essentially it's mechanical processing. The way the materials have to get segregated is through longevity of yarns, the type of product classifications. It's essentially chopped up. So in one essence, what you have to do to essentially make it more usable is using more expensive virgin material to blend with a lesser value product in order to really bring it up to a level where it can be used again. Now, with that said, a lot of it is, those are end uses which are being applied in the carpet segment of the wool industry. But it's definitely a challenge that we have to figure out holistically. I think that's where blends, of course, become more challenging from a second life component. So that's still very much a TBD piece to what we still need to work on towards second life, essentially. But I agree with you. It's in terms of the longevity component and what we all have to holistically work towards as a industry is really figuring that piece out.
And, we also talk about, circularity, but also, creating pieces of home furnishings pieces that can live on, legacy pieces, heirloom pieces that may contain wool.
Yeah.
So there are other ways that, especially something valuable like that.
Right.
So thank you. Yeah, the science is changing by the minute. So Jennifer.
Yeah, science is changing. So we're always intrigued by what we can do end of life. So cotton, as I said earlier, is a natural fiber. It is a tree. It is fully biodegradable. It is fully compostable, and it will biodegrade in fresh water, seawater, wastewater, soil. It will decompose at approximately the same rate as an oak leaf. So if you think about, the fall, the leaves, they fall from the tree. Cotton will break down in a very similar time frame, approximately 90 days. We're talking about weeks, months for it to completely biodegrade. when you're talking about the recycling of cotton, there's a lot of opportunity there. And one of the things that, you know, we always talk to our brands and retailers about is you're not going to take a t-shirt and recycle it back into a t-shirt. You know, that's just not really the optimal way to recycle cotton fibers. Ideally, you would recycle a t-shirt and then you would put it into a secondary product, perhaps a handbag or a dog bed covering or something else. We always recommend that because those fibers do get chopped up and compromised, it's harder to get that length and strength that cotton is so prized for. You know, that's really why people do use cotton, and especially, you know, the extra long staple fiber cotton like the Supimas and all of that. They're using it for the length and the strength. So if you're going to take either pre-consumer or post-consumer, you can use either one, and you're then going to cut that up. We always recommend that you look at what that application is going to be. We also recommend through our research at Cotton Incorporated that you do a 70-30 blend, 70% virgin fibers with 30% recycled fibers. That will really get you an optimal blend for when you are using recycled cotton. Cotton in and of itself, I'm sure everybody here owns a pair or two of blue jeans, maybe 7 pairs, as our research has shown. The average person owns about 7 pairs of jeans. In certain retailers, you can go in and out of stores. You may have heard of or seen a blue jeans go green drop off. Very often these retailers will take your old jeans and give you a coupon to buy a new pair of jeans. We take those jeans, they are cut up and shredded and used into home insulation. You can buy it at Home Depot, you can buy it at Lowe's. You can go to the Mother Earth Brewery in Kinston, North Carolina, and take the brewery tour. Well, they will very happily point out that the insulation in the building is recycled denim jeans. And that was a real kick for me because I was just there to have a beer. I was just like, yeah, okay, sure. But then to go on that tour and find that out, I just thought that was real cool that they were pointing that out. And that was really interesting. A lot of the gin trash also can be used. That's another piece of the cotton puzzle that a lot of people don't necessarily think about. Again, that the leaves and the stems, as I mentioned earlier, can certainly be used as fertilizer, but a lot of the lint, not the fiber, the lint that covers the seed, once that's removed, that can be used as an alternative to polyfill in all, you know, pillows and dog beds and mattresses and lots of other places that you just need fiber for cushioning. There's some home delivery services as well that are using recycled cotton fibers as their insulating packaging. You know, again, instead of going into a synthetic, a plastic that won't break down, this is now giving them an opportunity to really create a very circular end of life product.
That's a very uplifting note. Before we wrap up, I know we're at the hour almost, but are there any questions? I think we have answered everything preemptively here, but speaking of end of life, I do want to say the Sustainable Furnishings Council is the sponsor for ITA and Material Returns textile recycling program here at Interwoven. I'm hoping a ton of swatches will end up in bins and recycled and have a new life being upcycled through Material Return in Morganton. And I believe Angie, our program director, you found out where 846 pounds have already been recycled from the last show. So we are proud as a nonprofit we teach a lot, but this feels like we're doing a lot. And I know we pull grommets out and do the things too. So it's great. So please make sure if you're out there, remind everybody to recycle those swatches. So I guess we'll end with that. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for a lively conversation. It was very informative, and everyone have a great interwoven. Thank you.
When I have very similar companies, yes. We work for them as, I heard you say Macy's, I worked for Macy's at West Point, we used to work for Alamac, which was their East side, so.
Our social media guru is gonna make sure.
Do we all hold up our props?
Oh,
yeah.
One good, one without.
Don't forget to look at the blended materials on the table there in the back.
Okay. I don't have a problem. That's okay. I'm sending it to you. Do it without the props.
Okay. Without the props.
Just a real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2. Just in case. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. We will tag everybody. This was great.
Thank you.
Really, everybody.
Doing all right. We're doing all right.
I didn't know this had tinsel. You're representing the whole thing.
I should have had my altar.
I know. I love altars too, but I haven't gotten them yet. Yes, okay. We'll get the world changed. That's how you order them. This is Julia. She's our social media.